Hey guys, tonight we stand at the edge of a dark throne room, where shadows gather like old regrets and the faint iron scent of dried blood clings to every cold stone. You trace your fingers along a cracked table, and beneath your touch, the bone remembers remembering the ribcage that forged a king's crown, a crown not just worn but cursed. A weight heavier than mere gold or jewels. The air hums softly, but listen close, there's something waiting to whisper back. You probably won't survive this, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, why not drop your location and local time in the comments? Let me know where you are when you meet this darkness. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes, but not in the way you expect. The chamber breathes slow, shallow breaths through cracks in stone and bone. The king's crown lies before you, nestled atop an altar carved from a single ribcage. The bones are bleached almost white, yet flecked with rust-red stains that pulse faintly, as though the marrow within still beats a hollow rhythm. You feel the castle's breath on your neck. Cold and ancient, this ribcage was not chosen by accident. The Black Psalm of Vorthur whispers that royal bones carry a curse older than the throne itself, an inheritance of blood and shadow. Locked into flesh and forged into iron, this crown is no mere ornament. It is a sentinel and a predator, watching with silent eyes forged in bone and blood. The ribcage altar creaks as you lean closer, its joints flexing like the fingers of a dead hand curling back to life. There is a scent you can't quite place iron, yes, but also something sweeter and fouler, like decay wrapped in honey. You recall a fragment from the forbidden scroll of Enon. The bone that binds the king is hungry, devouring not flesh but the spirit's last light. You shudder. You remember, or perhaps imagine, the king's crowning day. The air was thick with incense and whispered promises, but somewhere beneath the grandeur, a deeper unease slithered in. The executioner was late that day, union rules, presumably, and no one noticed the small movement in the shadows near the altar. Something unseen, something sentient, stirred beneath the ribbed bones, waiting. As your fingers brush the crown, a chill races down your spine, and the chamber's faint breathing grows louder. Closer, you notice the walls, the carved faces of forgotten monarchs, their eyes seeming to follow you, lingering too long. One blinks. No living scholar dares study why the portrait's eyes only blink when unobserved, as if the damned within remember to watch the living when they think themselves unseen. You pull back, heart quickening, but the ribcage altar hums a low, hollow song that vibrates through the stone floor. It is a lullaby for the dead, the kind sung backward in forgotten times by the ribsmith himself, the artisan who forged the crown from his own father's bones. You don't yet know his fate, but there is a stain on the floor, a smear of crimson that was not there before. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The candle gutters, casting long shadows that twist and stretch like fingers reaching from the void. The air thickens, the castle exhales. You step back, but your skin prickles with the promise that this night has only just begun. The king's coronation feast looms in your mind. A scene soaked in grandeur and dread. You stand in the great hall, where golden chandeliers drip molten wax like tears, and the scent of roasted venison and spiced wine fills the air with a false warmth. But beneath the laughter and clinking goblets, something festers, something hungry, waiting for the moment to bite. The Black Psalm of Vorthur tells of a feast where the first king's blood mingled with bone dust, and the guests became unwilling sacrifices to a crown's insatiable hunger. Tonight's banquet is no different, though the guests don't know it yet. You can feel it lurking in the corners, in the sentient shadows that cling to the stone pillars. The moment the king raised the cursed crown, a wave of convulsions rippled through the hall. Servants fell, clutching their throats as if strangled by invisible fingers. The court physician muttered forbidden prayers, but his voice was swallowed by the rising panic. One noblewoman's laughter twisted into a ragged cough, and her eyes rolled back like dying stars. You notice the executioner is missing again. Union rules, apparently, but it seems no one is eager to face what comes after the feast. The Black Psalm hints that the crown feeds on the life of those closest to the king, a cruel pact forged from the ribcage of a father and sealed with blood. You wonder if the guests suspect they are the next course. The king himself wears the crown with a hollow pride, but you see it the way his hands tremble, the shadows that move behind his eyes. The ribcage that forms the base of the crown pulses faintly, a heartbeat that belongs to neither living nor dead. You recall an eldritch mystery whispered among scholars. No one knows why the weeping statues in the courtyard bleed only when unobserved, their tears pooling into dark stains that seep into the earth. Some say the statues are guardians, others that they mourn the souls lost to the crown's hunger. Tonight, you sense both truth and light tangled in their silent weeping. The feast's chaos spirals as the king's hollow twin, a secret shadow hidden in the castle's deepest chambers, awakens, its hunger echoing the crown's own. The twin's curse is ancient, bound by blood and bone, and the twin's eyes gleam with a terrible hunger. You step carefully through the banquet hall's broken glass and overturned goblets, the sentient shadows trailing your every move. The ribcage's song hums beneath your skin, a lullaby woven from the bones of the past and the screams of the forgotten. You remember the priest's last benediction, his lips stained with dark blood as he choked on a curse older than faith itself. The chapel doors have been sealed since, but the faint echo of his dying hymn still lingers, a fragment of forbidden lore that speaks of the crown's true power, not dominion over flesh, but dominion over the soul's fragile light. You shudder as the walls seem to lean closer, the shadows tightening their grip. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You can't help but notice the missing servant too, the one no one talks about, the one whose name is already carved into the ribbed altar. The crown waits, and so do they. The bone-gilded chapel yawns before you like a maw, its arches towering and brittle as dried ribs, the stained glass flickering with a sickly hue that seems to pulse in time with your heartbeat. You step inside, and the air thickens with the iron scent of old blood and incense long burnt to ash. The priest stands at the altar, his voice a rasp barely audible beneath the chapel's oppressive silence. Suddenly, a wet sound, a choking cough, breaks the prayer. The priest's lips split, and dark blood seeps, pooling in slow rivulets on the polished stone floor. He tries to speak, but the words catch like thorns in his throat. His eyes widen, glassy and fixed on the altar where the ribcage crown rests atop a velvet cushion. The Black Psalm of Vorther speaks of the blood benediction, a curse cast when faith meets blasphemy, when sacred bones are twisted into profane objects of power. The priest's plight is no accident. It is a prophecy whispered in a tongue lost to time and sanity. You realize the ribcage crown is not merely a symbol but a sacrament, its hunger bleeding through flesh and bone alike. The chapel's shadows thicken, taking on forms elongated, twitching sentient shapes that coil around the pillars like serpents made of smoke and despair. You notice the carvings along the walls, twisted faces with hollow eyes, mouths open in silent screams, and hands clutching ribs, forever trying to reclaim what was taken. No living scholar dares study why the chapel's floor slickens with blood only during benediction, vanishing at dawn as though it were never there. It's a riddle soaked in fear, the kind that gnaws at your sanity when you least expect it. As the priest collapses, the crown seems to pulse, a heartbeat sensing with the ragged breaths of the dying man. You hear a whisper beneath the chapel's stones, a lullaby sung backwards by the ribsmith, the artisan whose hands once shaped the crown from his own father's ribs. His fate is a tale wrapped in shadows, sealed with a promise of retribution. The scent of decay grows sharper, mingled with the sweetness of rotting honey. You glance upward. The stained glass blinks once, twice, eyes flickering with cruel amusement. The portraits lining the chapel's walls don't just watch. They judge, and occasionally, they blink. You catch a glimpse of a figure in the corner, a servant missing from the feast, cloaked in tattered veils, his eyes reflecting the chapel's dying light. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The priest's final breath escapes as a curse tangled in holy words, and the crown hums louder, a siren song calling the lost, the damned, and those who dare to witness. The chapel exhales, and the shadows lean closer. The corridor stretches before you like a serpent's spine, each cracked stone a vertebra groaning beneath centuries of silence and secret sins. The air is thick with the iron scent of dried blood and the faint, sour tang of sweat. Shadows cling stubbornly to the walls, their shapes flickering and twisting sentient, watching, waiting. You notice the faintest pulse in the gloom, as if the very stone beneath your feet throbs with a heartbeat not your own. The Black Psalm of Vorthur describes corridors such as this as the veins of the forgotten, channels through which the curse of the crown seeps into the very bones of the castle. Every step you take echoes too loudly, as if the stones themselves resent your intrusion. You feel the ribcage crown's hunger seeping through the walls, a hungry murmur that promises to devour the light from your soul. The air shifts suddenly, and you catch a whisper, barely a breath, carrying a name you do not recognize but feel rooted in your very marrow. It is a name scratched deep into the wood of a forgotten desk, a name now belonging to you, whether you will or no. The curse is contagious. The castle's memories become yours, their sins sewn into your flesh like a brand. An eldritch mystery lingers here. No scholar alive understands why the weeping statues in the courtyard bleed only when unobserved, their tears pooling into dark stains that crawl like ink beneath the stones. The blood seems to breathe, pulsate, alive with secrets that defy reason. You recall the half-remembered tale the statues are watchers, sentinels born of grief. Their tears a silent lament for the souls lost to the crown's ravenous appetite. The flicker of a lantern down the hall reveals a missing servant, silent, ghost-like, his eyes sunken but burning with a hollow fire. He does not speak, but you know he waits for the crown to claim him. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The walls seem to lean inward, narrowing the path, the shadows thickening until you feel the cold brush of fingers trailing along your spine. The ribcage crown hums beneath your skin, a lullaby of bone and blood, coaxing you deeper into the castle's hungry heart. You catch a faint gleam, a shard of glass from a broken mirror reflecting the faintest glimpse of the Twin Kings' hollow eyes, watching, waiting. The executioner's absence hangs in the air like a forgotten promise, union rules or no. You swallow hard, aware that every step forward binds you tighter to the curse. The corridor exhales a slow, deliberate breath, ancient and inevitable. The walls remember, and they whisper your name. The throne room yawns before you, cavernous and suffocating, lit by flickering torchlight that casts grotesque shadows against the cracked marble and twisted tapestries. The iron scent of old blood lingers in the air, thick enough to taste, mingling with the faint musk of sweat and rot. You step forward, and the echo of your footsteps feels unnatural, swallowed by the vastness, or perhaps returned with a mocking echo from the unseen. At the room's center stands the throne, forged from jagged bone and stained with dried crimson that never quite washes away. The king's crown rests upon it, gleaming with a sinister sheen, each rib inlaid with ancient runes that pulse faintly in the torchlight. You sense the crown's sentient hunger, a gnawing emptiness that devours more than just flesh souls, hulks. The faintest glimmers of light, the Black Psalm of Vorthur murmurs a warning here. The throne room is a crucible where the cursed lineage is bound, where the ribcage crown's pact is renewed with the blood of the living. The first king's rib bones still hum with a power no scholar dares name aloud, a forbidden lore fragment too dangerous to recite beyond these walls. As you approach, a chill runs down your spine. The portraits lining the walls seem to lean forward, their painted eyes narrowing and blinking with unnatural precision. Faces long dead, kings and queens who wore the crown before, their features twisted by madness and sorrow. You notice one portrait with a name carved faintly into the corner, your own. No living scholar can explain why the weeping statues outside bleed only when the sun hides, nor why the ribcage crown thrums like a heart beneath the throne. These are mysteries meant to remain unsolved, yet here you stand, drawn closer by the relentless call. The hollow twin shadow flickers briefly near the throne, his hunger palpable, eyes gleaming with a darkness that could swallow you whole. The absence of the executioner is marked here by a blood stain that never fades, a stain that seems to pulse with each whispered curse you step closer, feeling the crown's pulse sync with your own racing heartbeat. The walls seem to breathe, exhaling cold dread that wraps around you like a shroud. The ribbed bones whisper secrets of sacrifice, of broken promises, of a lineage cursed to hunger endlessly. You can almost hear the echo of the ribsmith's hammer, the last strikes that shape the crown from flesh and bone, binding the king's fate to his father's sacrifice. A slow, cruel lullaby that promises dominion and despair. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The throne room waits, patient and hungry, and the crown's shadow reaches for you. You step into the dimly lit chamber beneath the throne room, where the air is thick with damp stone and the sour stench of old secrets fermenting in the dark. The walls pulse faintly, as if breathing, coated in a slick film of something that glimmers like blood under the pale torchlight. Your footsteps disturb centuries of silence, echoes swallowed by the suffocating shadows that cling like desperate hands. The black psalm of Vorthur warns that beneath the crown's seat lies the vault of the forgotten, where the ribsmith's forbidden craft is enshrined, bones twisted with dark magic, whispers of flesh and sinew turn to cold iron here. The cursed lineage's true nature is revealed in shattered remnants and cruel relics. You notice the iron scent sharpen into something more pungent, a metallic tang that scratches at your throat. The unmistakable aroma of blood not yet dried, of rituals unfulfilled. The walls bear carvings of skeletal hands reaching out, fingers entwined with roots and serpents, as if trying to claw free from the stone itself. The etchings writhe when unobserved, a maddening dance of bone and shadow. An eldritch mystery lurks here. No living scholar dares explain why the iron chains hanging from the ceiling seem to hum with a life of their own, tightening and loosening as if breathing, though no breath stirs the stagnant air. The black psalm murmurs of chains of the ribsmith, said to bind the very essence of the first king's wrath, and to imprison the souls of those who dare question the crown's dark bargain. You catch the scent of honey rotting, sweet, thick lingering in a forgotten corner where a shattered vial lies cracked, its contents long evaporated but still potent in memory. The smell calls to you, drawing your gaze to a rusted bone twisted into a grotesque crown fragment. It throbs softly with power, an artifact of ancient, terrible purpose, from the shadows. The missing servant's hollow eyes gleam briefly before vanishing into the black, his silent presence a reminder of your own precarious fate, much like your situation now, isn't it? The whispers grow louder, crawling up the walls like fingers tracing secrets in flesh. The ribcage crown's pulse echoes through the chamber, a heartbeat not your own but soon to be shared. You feel the weight of the ribsmith's curse pressing down a debt that must be paid, and soon. The chains rattle, the walls breathe, and the vault exhales cold dread. You realize there is no turning back. The stifling darkness parts just enough to reveal the forgotten library. A tomb of brittle pages and cracked spines where the castle's most forbidden lore festers. Dust motes dance in the narrow slant of weak candlelight, suspended like ghosts over the leather-bound tomes that pulse faintly with a corrupt life of their own. You sense the weight of knowledge here twisted, dangerous, and never meant for your eyes. The black psalm of Vorthur calls this place the archive of broken promises, where scribes long dead etched the ribcage crown's genesis into ink stained by blood and madness. You brush your fingers over a tome whose pages whisper in tongues lost to sane men, fragments of curses and eldritch rites that warp reality itself. One volume falls open as if guided by unseen hands, revealing an illustration, a ribcage clasped not just as armor, but as a prison, each bone inscribed with hexes that bind flesh to spirit in eternal torment. The script warns that the crown feeds on the soul's marrow, its hunger insatiable, endless. You recognize the script part of a forbidden incantation, incomplete and dangerous. You notice a broken quill resting beside a scroll, ink frozen mid-splatter, as if the scribe had been interrupted by something terrible. The ink forms strange sigils that shift and rearrange when unobserved. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only in the absence of witness, yet here in the library, the ink seems to bleed silently across the page, an echo of that dark mystery. A shadow flickers sentient, undulating a living blot of darkness that wraps and folds like smoke. It whispers your name, laced with cold amusement, much like your situation now, isn't it? The musty scent of decay thickens, and you catch a faint metallic tang, the taste of rust and bone dust mingling on your tongue. You reach for another book but recoil as the portrait's eyes on the walls narrow and blink, their gaze accusing, eternal. The air ripples, and a page tears itself free, fluttering down to your feet. The torn fragment carries a single phrase, repeated and fading. The ribsmith's debt is paid in silence. You realize that knowledge here is a double-edged blade. Every secret uncovered tightens the curse's grip. Every whisper stolen feeds the crown's ravenous hunger. The library exhales, and the shadows close in. You know the crown watches. You enter the gallery of ancestral masks, a hall where hollow visages leer from shattered pedestals, their cracked surfaces stained with age and forgotten sorrow. The scent of aged leather and damp stone mixes with the faint tang of iron blood's ghost clinging stubbornly to this place of silent judgment. The masks seem almost alive, their empty eye sockets shifting subtly as you pass, tracking your every move with a patient, merciless hunger. The Black Psalm of Vorther names this the Hall of Echoes, where the cursed lineage's spirits linger, their torment etched into every cracked grin and shattered visage. Here, the king's crown is said to bind the souls of those who wore it, their essence trapped in these hollow shells, forced to witness eternity's slow decay. You find a mask unlike the rest carved from bone, ribs entwined in an impossible lattice. Stained dark as old blood, it pulses faintly, thrumming with a heartbeat not your own. The mask bears a sigil of forbidden's mark said to grant sight beyond mortal realms, but at a terrible cost. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, yet here, the eyes of the mask seem to weep shadows that drip like black tears onto the stone floor. The air thickens, and you sense a presence, sentient shadows slithering along the walls, whispering secrets too dangerous to speak aloud, much like your situation now, isn't it? The shadow speaks in a voice both cruel and weary, reminding you of the ribcage crown's ancient pact, forged in blood and bound by bone. A sudden chill bites at your skin as you notice the Twin King's hollow eyes reflected in a broken shard on the floor, watching, waiting. The gallery exhales a slow, deliberate breath filled with decay and despair. You hear the faint sound of chains rattling, though no chains hang here. The mask pulses again, a cold hunger that reaches for you. Promises dominion and madness. The walls lean closer, shadows thickening, until you feel the crown's curse tighten around your throat like a serpent's coil. The masks watch, and the crown waits. You step into the chamber of shattered mirrors, a labyrinth of fractured glass and twisted reflections that distort reality like a cruel jest. Each shard captures fragments of your image, splintered and multiplied, some with eyes that blink independently or mouths that curl into silent screams. The air is thick with the acrid scent of burning candles and the iron bite of blood lingering just beneath the surface. The Black Psalm of Vorther refers to this place as the Mirror of Lost Souls, where the cursed lineage's fractures ripple endlessly. The king's crown is said to splinter the wearer's identity, each rib a shard locking pieces of the self in eternal disarray, a curse no scholar has unraveled fully. A shard at your feet glimmers with unnatural light, revealing an eldritch sigil, one that seems to pulse, drawing your gaze despite every instinct to look away. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, yet here in this chamber, your reflections seem to weep silent tears of shadow, mirroring the mystery. You catch a flicker from the corner, the hollow twin's shadow, stretched thin and flickering between shards, his presence a reminder of your fragile hold on reality, much like your situation now. Isn't it? The glass breathes an ancient pulse like a heartbeat beneath the cracks, and the whispers of forbidden lore brush against your mind. The ribsmith's curse fractures more than bone. It cleaves the soul, splintering identity until nothing remains whole. A dry, bitter laugh echoes faintly, the executioner's union rules holding firm even here, in this realm of madness. The mirrors reflect not only your face but the creeping hunger of the crown, the ribcage's cruel embrace tightening with each passing breath. You sense the crown's gaze, cold and endless. Looking just beyond the edge of reflection, the shards pulse in rhythm with your heartbeat, each fragment a prison, a memory, a curse. The chamber closes in, glass-slicing shadows against your skin. You are becoming the fractured, and the crown is patient. You descend the spiraling staircase carved from blackened bone, each step echoing hollowly, swallowed by the cavernous depths beneath the castle. The air grows colder, a biting frost that creeps beneath your skin, whispering secrets of the dead. The faint hum of ancient chants vibrates through the stone, a dirge long forgotten but still thrumming in the marrow of this place. The black psalm of Vorther calls this descent the path of eternal dead, a pilgrimage for the cursed lineage to atone in shadow and blood. The ribcage crown's forge lies deep below, where the first king's ribs were wrought into iron, binding flesh and spirit in a bond both sanctified and profane. Your fingers trail along the wall, where faded runes pulse faintly arcane symbols of binding and sacrifice. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. But here, the runes drip an inky black ichor, seeping into the stone like the castle's own blood. A voice, barely more than a whisper, coils around your mind, cold and patient, much like your situation now. Isn't it? The ribsmith's legacy demands payment, and the price is never paid in coin. You reach the forged chamber cathedral of rusted iron and broken chains. The centerpiece is a grotesque anvil fashioned from fused ribs, cracked and glowing with embers that burn without flame. Shadows crawl across the walls, sentient and eager. As if waiting to reclaim what was lost, a shattered helmet lies beside the anvil, its interior etched with runes of protection and curses alike. The scent of old sweat and rust fills the air, mingling with the sharp tang of blood and ash. The forge exhales a cold breath, carrying the faintest echo of a hammer's strike, long silent yet eternally resonant. The ribcage crown was forged here, a blasphemy of bone and iron, its hunger sealed in fire and blood. You realize the chains rattling above are not mere decoration, they are the bindings of those who failed the debt. Forever trapped between worlds, their cries muffled by the stone. The forge's glow flickers, and the shadows lean in, waiting. You feel the weight of the crown's curse settle like cold iron on your shoulders. No escape, only the echo of the hammer. You emerge into the crypt's vault, where the bones of forgotten kings lie arranged in grotesque patterns, ribs woven like cages, skulls stacked in towers reaching toward a low, cracked ceiling. The air here is thick with the stench of earth and old death, mingled with something fouler, an iron scent, sharp and metallic, like dried blood long congealed. The silence is profound, broken only by the distant drip of unseen water and the faint rustle of something moving just beyond sight. The black psalm of Vorther calls this the Vault of Bone Echoes, a repository not just of remains, but of memories and curses. The ribcage crown's power is said to be drawn from this mass of ancient bones, each fragment a fragment of the king's lineage, each rib a link in an unbroken chain of torment. You trace a finger over a pile of ribs, feeling the chill seep into your flesh as a whisper coils around your mind, dark and knowing. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. Yet here, the bones seem to pulse faintly, as if alive with a terrible, restless hunger. A shadow shifts in the corner of the vault, sentient and watching, its presence like the cold breath of a grave. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You notice a small, crudely carved symbol etched into a skull's forehead, an ancient ward against the ribsmith's curse, cracked and fading. The lore warns that those who bear the mark are doomed to be consumed by the crown's hunger, their souls torn apart and woven into its cursed frame. The walls seem to close in, our IBS rattling softly like chains in the dark. The portrait's eyes from above seem to peer downward, their gaze following you with a mixture of pity and contempt. You hear a faint, dry laugh echoing through the vault, an executioner's jest, perhaps, or the mocking voice of the cursed king himself. The laughter fades into silence, leaving only the oppressive weight of bone and blood. You realize the crown's curse is not just on flesh, but on the very marrow of your being. The vault exhales, and the bones clatter once more. The curse is patient, and so are the shadows. You step into the Hall of Murmurs, a vast chamber lined with towering tapestries, their threads woven from shadows and faded blood. The air is heavy, saturated with the scent of must and something acrid like scorched flesh or burning iron. The walls themselves seem to pulse faintly, as though the very stones breathe in time with your heartbeat. The Black Psalm of Vorthor whispers of this place as the king's whisper, where the voices of the cursed lineage converge, each tapestry a prison for a soul silenced but never truly gone. The ribcage crown, forged from his father's bones, is said to carry these voices, an eternal chorus of despair and power bound tight within its iron ribs. You catch a flicker in the corner of your vision, a sentient shadow, twisting and writhing as if eager to share secrets best left forgotten, much like your situation now, isn't it? The shadow leans closer, its voice a serpentine hiss that curls around your mind, promising knowledge for a price few pay willingly. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here the tapestry's threads pulse, wet and glistening as if freshly soaked in spectral blood. You feel the weight of countless whispered secrets pressing down, the murmurs threading through your thoughts like poisonous vines. A faint, dry chuckle echoes. Union rules no longer bind the executioner in this chamber, and he revels in the silence broken only by your footsteps. The ribcage crown's curse weaves its ancient song through the hall, a melody of power and perdition. Your fingers brush a tapestry's edge, and the threads tighten like a noose, pulling you deeper into the hall's dark embrace. The portrait's eyes above blink once, twice, watching, waiting. You hear the distant clang of iron on bone, the echo of the ribsmith's hammer still ringing through these cursed halls. The shadows close in, and the crown's voice grows louder. You find yourself at the threshold of the Chapel of Broken Hulls, a sanctum marred by shattered stained glass and the scent of burnt incense lingering in the stale air. The sunlight outside is a distant memory here, replaced by a twilight gloom that seeps into your bones, cold and relentless. The cracked altar is smeared with dried blood, both sacrificial and accidental, and the pews lie in disarray, as if a violent storm tore through, yet no storm ever touched this place. The Black Psalm of Vorthor calls this the heart of betrayal, where kings and kin alike swore blood oaths only to break them beneath the cursed crown. The ribcage forged from his father's bones is the ultimate symbol of those broken vows, each rib a testament to treachery and suffering. You notice the faintest shimmer of ethereal chains hanging from the cracked ceiling, their links humming with a quiet but unyielding power. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here the shattered saints weep in silence, their tears falling into invisible pools that stain the floor with dark stains that never dry. A shadow flickers near the altar, your hollow twin, the ever-watchful witness to your descent. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The hollow twin's gaze pierces through the gloom, cold and accusing, as if weighing your soul against those long lost. The ribsmith's hammer strikes again in the distance, echoing like a death knell, a cruel reminder that the crown's forging is eternal, bound to the cycles of betrayal and blood. You trace your fingers over the jagged edge of the altar. It hums with a forbidden's energy, a lingering curse that seeps into your skin like poison. The portraits lining the chapel's walls twist in the shadows, their eyes glowing faintly, watching your every move, their expressions shifting from sorrow to grim satisfaction. A dry, gallows humor seeps from the dark. The executioner's union rules do not apply here, only the endless sentence of damnation. You feel the chill of the chapel settle deep into your marrow. The crown waits, patient, merciless. You enter the gallery of forgotten kings, a long corridor lined with portraits so lifelike you half expect their eyes to follow you. And sometimes they do, blinking once or twice, just to remind you that the dead watch. The iron scent of old blood hangs heavy here, thickening the stale air like a fog. The painted faces twist subtly, as if caught between their last moments of grace and the curse that now chains them to this gallery for eternity. The Black Psalm of Vorthar calls this corridor the Hall of Silent Regrets, where the souls of kings who wore the ribcage crown dwell trapped in painted flesh, doomed to watch their own downfall in endless loops. The ribcage crown, forged from the very bones of betrayal, holds their memories hostage, its hunger insatiable. You sense a sentient shadow drifting just beyond the edges of the paintings, a silent wraith bound to the cursed lineage. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The shadow moves closer, its presence a cold brush against your skin, a reminder that even in stillness, the crown's influence stretches far and wide. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. But here, the tears streak down the painted faces in perfect synchronization with your steps, proof that the curse breathes even through art. The portrait's eyes flicker with eerie life, and a whisper threads through the corridor, soft and mocking. Remember the blood rust on the lock. It's fresh again. You catch sight of a fractured crown painted on one figure's head, the cracks bleeding black into the canvas, and realize this is the king who first wore the rib-forged crown, his legacy now a prison. A dry laugh echoes softly executioner's humor with no audience. Except you, the cold grows deeper, the walls pressing closer. You feel the weight of countless fallen kings bearing down on your shoulders. The gallery's silence hums with ancient sorrow. The crown's shadow lengthens, and you are not alone. You step into the Hall of Bone Relics, where glass cases cradle fractured ribs, splintered vertebrae, and rusted iron tools used in the ribsmith's dreadful craft. The air here tastes of old metal and whispered despair, as if the bones themselves have seeped sorrow into the very stones beneath your feet. Light filters through grimy windows, casting fractured shadows that dance like restless spirits. The Black Psalm of Vorthar refers to this chamber as the repository of the crown's torment, where the raw fragments of cursed power are kept, each piece a shard of agony bound in flesh and iron. The king's ribcage crown was not merely forged. It was assembled from suffering, each bone a testament to a twisted inheritance. You run your fingers along a rib splintered and etched with ancient rune symbols whose meaning no scholar alive dares to interpret. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. But here, the relics weep a slow, sticky ichor that stains the glass with crimson tears. A sentient shadow stirs at the edge of your vision, a flicker of darkness that feels less like a presence and more like a part of you unraveling, much like your situation now, isn't it? The shadow lingers, hungry for the knowledge you carry and the curse you cannot shed. The echo of the ribsmith's hammer reverberates faintly from deep below, a relentless rhythm marking time to an eternal doom. Your gaze settles on a rusted iron crown frame, jagged and cruel, shaped to fit the ribs it binds, a cruel cage for a monarch's head. The portraits above seem to sigh, their eyes briefly closing as if in tired resignation, before snapping open to track your every move. A dry, sardonic chuckle slips through the silence. The executioner's jest, sharp as a hungry blade, yet there is no one to hear but the bones. You sense the crown's hunger deepening, the relic's sorrow seeping into your blood. The hall breathes with ancient pain, and you are its latest heir. The corridor narrows as you descend deeper into the crypt beneath the castle, where the cold presses against your skin like a living thing. The scent of damp stone mingles with the iron tang of old blood, thick and suffocating. Faint echoes ripple off the walls, whispers of forgotten rites and the rustle of unseen wings. The Black Psalm of Vorthar warns that this place is the Vale of Sorrow, where the ribcage crown's forging was first consecrated in shadow and bone. You feel the pulse of Forbidden's power beneath your feet, a heartbeat older than kings and older than curses. A sentient shadow glides alongside you, here less a shadow, more a fragment of the crown's will, flickering with malice and hungry anticipation, much like your situation now, isn't it? It knows your name, though you do not speak it aloud. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. But here, carved effigies drip with a dark ichor that stains the crypt floor fresh and warm, though no eyes witness the flow. The eldritch mystery curls around your thoughts like smoke. You reach the heart of the crypt, the hollow pedestal where the ribcage crown once rested, now empty but humming with residual dread. The black psalm murmurs that the crown's soul was never whole, stolen in part by an unknown force that vanished into the abyss of legend. The mystery gnaws. Why would a crown born of blood and bone be incomplete? The walls breathe faintly, a slow, deliberate rhythm that echoes your own faltering pulse. Shadows twist and writhe, as if eager to consume your mind whole. The portraits above have long since faded here, but the silence hums with the weight of unseen watchers. A dry, bitter laugh rises from the darkness. The executioner is long gone, but the sentence remains perpetual, inescapable, unyielding. You clutch your chest as the chill seeps deeper, the crown's hunger reaching through time and stone. The crypt exhales a final breath, and you remain, caught in its grasp. You emerge into the throne room of shattered bones, where shattered fragments of stone and rusted iron litter the floor like fallen teeth. The throne itself, a grotesque construction of jagged ribs and twisted metal, sits at the room's heart, a throne that seems to pulse with a slow, malignant life. The air is heavy with the iron scent of decay, and the faint echo of long-dead monarchs whispers from every cracked surface. The Black Psalm of Vorthur names this place the seat of endless suffering, where the cursed king once sat, bearing the ribcage crown forged from his father's bones. The crown was both his glory and his prison, binding his soul to the endless cycle of betrayal and despair. You notice the portraits here are more than mere paint. The eyes shimmer with restless hunger, following you with a slow, deliberate malice, much like your situation now, isn't it? Their gaze is an accusation, a reminder that the legacy you inherit is one of torment. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. But here, the stained pillars drip dark tears into cracked stone basins, their silent sorrow filling the room with a palpable weight. A sentient shadow curls around the throne's base, flickering between form and void, whispering forgotten names and secrets meant to be buried with the dead. The shadow's voice is a velvet menace, promising knowledge at the cost of your soul. Your hand brushes against the rib-forged crown resting on a blood-stained cloth, its hungry edge cold and unforgiving. The iron smell is overpowering, like rust mixed with the metallic tang of spilled blood. A dry, sardonic chuckle echoes a jest without humor, a sentence without end. The throne's breath is slow but steady, like a beast barely contained. You feel the weight of countless curses pressing down, the crown's hunger clawing deeper into your flesh. The legacy waits to be claimed, and you are the unwilling heir. You step into the chamber of whispered bargains, where the air is thick with the metallic tang of promises sealed in blood. The walls, veined with ancient cracks, pulse faintly as if alive, their surface crawling with faint sigils that writhe and shift in the dim light. Shadows cling like sentient parasites, watching, waiting. The Black Psalm of Vorthur warns that this chamber was where the ribcage crown's original pact was forged, an unholy bargain sealed between a desperate king and a forgotten eldritch entity. The price was never spoken aloud, but the cost lingers in every whispered word etched into the chamber's cold stone. You feel the presence of a sentient shadow more keenly, hear a twisting, coiling thing that seems less like a being and more like a fragment of your own fractured soul. Much like your situation now, isn't it? The shadow knows your fears and feeds on the silence you carry. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved. But here, beneath the chamber's vaulted ceiling, a single statue's tears drip steadily into a pool that ripples with unnatural light, untouched by mortal eyes. A brittle, dry laugh breaks the stillness, the executioner's joke, cold and unyielding. As inevitable as the bargain itself, you find ancient, faded scrolls sealed in cracked glass, their ink crawling like living things, hinting at rituals lost and promises broken. The curse of the ribcage crown coils tighter with every breath you take. The chamber hums, alive with quiet malevolence. You realize the pact is not just a story but a warning, and the price is yet unpaid. You follow a narrow passage lined with jagged bones embedded in the walls, their marrow dark and glistening like ancient jewels. The iron scent intensifies, thickening the air into something almost viscous. The shadows here aren't content to linger. They pulse and writhe, sentient and restless, as if the castle itself breathes and remembers every sin committed beneath its stones. The Black Psalm of Vorthar calls this the path of unseen chains, where the curses of the ribcage crown ripple outward, binding not just flesh but will and soul. The bones embedded in the walls seem to throb faintly, as if alive, a macabre heartbeat sensing with your own, much like your situation now, isn't it? You feel those unseen chains tug at your mind, tightening with every step. The sentient shadows stretch and reach, whispering forbidden truths and half-forgotten names, promises made and broken. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, in the dimmest corners, the shadows themselves seem to weep black tears that vanish before they can be caught. Your fingers brush a carved rib jutting from the wall, cold and slick with something dark. The eldritch mystery coils around your thoughts, unyielding and maddening. A dry, humorless chuckle trails behind you. The executioner was late that day. Union rules. Presumably, the joke is on you. The passage twists, narrowing further, the walls closing in like the grip of a silent, unseen hand. You realize the crown's curse is not just a relic of the past but a living, pulsing force, and you, dear listener, are caught in its tightening grasp. You arrive at the gallery of broken monarchs, where fractured statues and shattered effigies of kings and queens line the walls, each bearing marks of violent undoing. The air hums with a cold, mournful resonance, a dirge whispered by stone and shadow. The scent of rust and dust lingers, heavy as a memory too painful to forget. The Black Psalm of Vorthar recounts that this gallery houses the shattered remnants of those who once sought the ribcage crown's power and failed. Their broken forms stand as grim warnings, their hollow eyes seeming to watch you with silent accusation, much like your situation now, isn't it? You bear their curse, their ruin, whether you accept it or not. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the tears of stone kings stain the cold floor, unnoticed except by the shadows that gather like vultures. A sentient shadow coils around one fractured throne, whispering bitter truths and half-forgotten regrets, its voice a velvet menace that slips under your skin. The shadow speaks of a mystery none dare unravel, why the blood of the fallen seeps through cracks in the stone only when the moon is blind. Your hand brushes against a splintered crown fragment lying discarded, its edges sharp with the hunger of 1,000 betrayals. The iron scent curls in your nostrils, thick and unyielding, a dry, sardonic chuckle echoes. No executioner waits here. The sentence has long since passed. You feel the gallery's sorrow press against you, cold and unrelenting. The broken monarchs await no savior, and you, heir of shattered bones, step forward. You cross into the hall of whispered lies, where every breath seems to carry 1,000 half-truths, and the walls themselves murmur secrets better left forgotten. The air tastes faintly of iron and old ink, as if the very space is steeped in the blood and stories of deceivers long dead. The shadows here flicker, sentient and sly, slipping between light and dark like serpents in the dusk. The Black Psalm of Vorthar warns that this hall was the site of the first betrayal that doomed the ribcage crown's lineage, a deceit so profound it fractured reality itself. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You walk through whispers that twist your thoughts, shaping doubts into knives. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the statues wear faces of those who once lied their way to power, their tears staining the cold stone floors in silence. A sentient shadow coils around a shattered mirror, reflecting not your face but fragments of forgotten lies, each one a dagger aimed at the heart of truth. The shadow's voice is a velvet menace, promising knowledge at the price of sanity. You catch the faint metallic tang of the ribcage crown's hunger in the air, a reminder that the legacy you bear is not only cursed, but hungry for more. A dry, bitter laugh echoes in the Hull executioner's humor, cold and without mercy. You feel the weight of betrayal settling over your shoulders like a shroud. The Hull's lies cling to you, and you are marked. For the crown does not forgive, it consumes. You enter the vault of silent regrets, a chamber so suffused with sorrow that even the stones seem to weep. The air is thick with the iron scent of ancient blood, mingling with the faintest trace of something sweeter decay's perfumed kiss. Here, the shadows are restless, sentient tendrils that reach for you with cold and yielding fingers, tugging at memories best left buried. The Black Psalm of Vorthur speaks of this place as the resting ground of broken promises, where the cursed king's regrets were said to linger long after his flesh turned to dust. Much like your situation now, isn't it? Regrets gnaw at your spirit, unrelenting, echoing through the hollow spaces within. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the statues' silent tears fall steadily, pulling into the cracks beneath their feet. The mystery deepens. Why does sorrow manifest only in solitude? A sentient shadow coils beneath a shattered reliquary, its voice a velvet menace whispering fragments of forgotten pleas and desperate bargains. The shadow promises revelations, but only if you dare pay the price. Your fingers brush against a brittle bone or rib fragment from the cursed crown, cold and unyielding, its surface etched with runes that pulse faintly in the gloom. The crown's hunger feels nearer here, a living pulse beneath the stone. A dry, humorless chuckle slips through the silence, the executioner's tardiness, a cruel reminder that fate waits for no one. You feel the crushing weight of regret settle upon you, binding you tighter to the cursed legacy. The vault's sorrow is endless, and so, too, is your debt. You step into the crypt of echoing sorrows, where every footfall is swallowed by a vast, cavernous silence that feels both infinite and suffocating. The air here carries the faint metallic tang of dried blood, mixing with the cold breath of forgotten grief. Shadows pulse and move with a life of their own, sentient echoes of pain that cling to your skin and whisper secrets you wish you hadn't heard. The Black Psalm of Vorthur hints that this crypt holds the anguished spirits of those who died beneath the ribcage crown's curse, their laments trapped in the very stone. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You carry their sorrow as a shadow follows the sun, inescapable and relentless. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the statue's hollow eyes seem to weep shadows, dark tears that vanish when caught in the light. An eldritch mystery that gnaws at the edges of reason. A sentient shadow winds through the crypt's arches, its voice a velvet menace that coils around your thoughts, revealing whispers of forbidden lore and tragic mistakes. The shadow offers truths wrapped in riddles, promising insight for a price no sane soul would pay. Your hand brushes against a shard of bone, rough and cold, part of the crown itself, pulsating faintly with a hunger that feels almost alive. The iron scent thickens, heavy with the weight of blood and regret. A dry, sardonic chuckle echoes faintly. The executioner was late. Union rules, presumably. The joke is cruel, but fitting. You feel the crypt's sorrow settle deeper into your bones, a relentless weight you cannot shake. The echoes never fade, and neither will your burden. You descend into the pit of forgotten vows, where the air hangs thick with the metallic scent of old blood and the acrid sting of rust. The walls here are slick with a sheen that catches the flickering light. Shadows dancing and shifting like living things, sentient specters that brush against your skin, cold and unyielding. Each step echoes hollowly, swallowed quickly by the abyss below. The Black Psalm of Vorthur whispers that this pit holds the broken promises of those bound to the ribcage crown, their vows shattered and scattered like brittle bones, much like your situation now. Isn't it? Your own promises weigh heavy, tethering you to a fate-ridden blood and shadow. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, The walls themselves seem to weep rust-colored tears, staining the floor in silent confession. An eldritch riddle that resists all understanding. A sentient shadow coils near the pit's edge, its voice a velvet menace that slips into your mind, revealing secrets better left unsaid. The shadow offers a cruel bargain, knowledge in exchange for a piece of your soul. Your fingers graze a shard of bone embedded in the pit's floor, cold and sharp, pulsing faintly with a hunger that echoes through the darkness. The iron scent thickens, a constant reminder of the crown's insatiable appetite. A dry, humorless chuckle ripples through the void. The executioner's union demands punctuality, but death is never on time. You feel the pit's cold grip tighten around your heart, a relentless embrace you cannot escape. The vows lie broken, and so does your hope. You reach the chamber of endless shadows, where darkness reigns supreme, swallowing all light and sound except the faint whisper of your own breath. The air is thick with a metallic tang, the scent of iron mingling with the cold, dank smell of stone untouched by the sun for centuries. The shadows here shift with unsettling awareness, sentient darkness that coils and writhes like serpents, watching, waiting. The Black Psalm of Vorther recounts that this chamber was once the throne room of the cursed king, where the ribcage crown first claimed its power and damned its bearer. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You stand where power and ruin intertwined, the legacy of bone and blood heavy upon you. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the statues twisted and broken weep black tears that vanish when looked upon directly. An eldritch mystery that defies understanding. The darkness conceals what eyes cannot see. A sentient shadow slides along the cold walls, its voice a velvet menace whispering fragments of forbidden lore, secrets that claw at your mind and threaten to unravel your sanity. The shadow promises power, but at a cost deeper than blood. Your fingers touch the cold stone floor, where fragments of the ribcage crown are embedded, pulsing faintly with a hungry life. The iron scent grows stronger, a relentless reminder that the crown's hunger is never sated. A dry, sardonic chuckle echoes faintly. The executioner was late. Union rules, presumably even here. Humor is as dark as the shadows. You feel the chamber's oppressive weight settle on your soul, the darkness pressing in with infinite patience. The shadows never rest, and neither will you. You enter the gallery of broken reflections, a twisted maze of shattered mirrors and fractured truths. The air is heavy with the scent of rusted iron and forgotten memories, thick enough to taste a bitter tang that lingers at the back of your throat. Shadows flicker and crawl across the fractured glass, sentient and serpentine. Their whispers a chorus of lies and half-truths. The Black Psalm of Vorther speaks of this gallery as a place where the cursed king's many faces were revealed, each reflection a lie, each shard a fragment of his fractured soul, much like your situation now, isn't it? You see yourself multiplied and distorted, a prisoner of your own fragmented past. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the mirrors drip with tears of black glass that vanish when you look directly. An eldritch mystery that gnaws at reason's edge. A sentient shadow slinks among the shards, its voice a velvet menace weaving through your thoughts, exposing hidden fears and forbidden knowledge. The shadow offers a bargain, the truth you seek, wrapped in riddles and sacrifice. Your hand grazes a fragment of bone lodged between the mirrors, a piece of the ribcage crown. Cold and alive with hunger, the iron scent swells, pressing in on your senses. A dry laugh echoes. The executioner's tardiness was apparently mandatory. Union rules again, even here. Morbid humor claws at sanity. You feel the gallery's fractured grip tighten around your mind, twisting your thoughts like broken glass. Reflections shatter, and so does your grasp on reality. You step into the hall of whispering bones, where the walls are lined with skeletal remains arranged in haunting patterns that seem almost deliberate, almost sentient. The air carries the unmistakable scent of iron and dust, a stale breath of death, heavy and persistent. Shadows coil along the bonework like living things. curling and unfurling with a whispered language only the damned understand. The black psalm of Vorther murmurs that this hall holds the restless spirits of those sacrificed for the ribcage crown's creation, their bones singing an eternal lament. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You walk among the remains of those bound by blood and betrayal, their sorrow and echo you cannot escape. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the bones themselves seem to weep, slick with unseen tears that vanish when glimpsed. An eldritch mystery as chilling as the grave. A sentient shadow slips between the bones, its voice a velvet menace threading through your mind, revealing forbidden secrets and dark bargains. The shadow offers knowledge steeped in pain for a price carved in bone. Your fingers brush a rib fragment embedded in the wall, cold and pulsing faintly with the hunger of the cursed crown. The iron scent thickens, a visceral reminder of the crown's insatiable need. A dry, gallows humor slips through the silence, the executioner's tardiness, a bureaucratic cruelty in the face of death. You feel the bone's sorrow settle deep in your chest, a relentless weight that will not be lifted. The bones whisper, and so will you. You find yourself within the sanctuary of hollow eyes. A chamber where the portraits line every wall, their painted gazes heavy with unspoken torment. The eyes seem to follow you, their pupils dark wells that occasionally blink. Alive with a sinister awareness, the air is thick with the scent of old iron and the faint musk of decay, like a wound never allowed to heal. The Black Psalm of Vorther notes that this sanctuary was once a place of twisted worship, where the king and his court gazed upon themselves with hollow reverence, blind to their own corruption. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You stand beneath the gaze of countless eyes, each demanding confession you do not wish to give. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the portrait's eyes weep dark tears that vanish the moment you look away, an eldritch enigma, a truth that evaporates with your attention. A sentient shadow flickers across the frames, its voice a velvet menace whispering secrets you are warned never to hear. The shadow promises revelation wrapped in riddles, stained with dread. Your fingers brush the cracked frame of the nearest portrait, feeling the cold pulse of bone beneath the canvas. A fragment of the ribcage crown's curse embedded deep. The iron scent sharpens, thickening the air. A dry, cynical chuckle breaks the silence the executioner's union has rules even death cannot bend. You feel the weight of the hollow eyes pressing down, a silent judgment that will never waver. The eyes watch, and so must you. You descend into the crypt beneath the castle, where the air grows colder, heavier laden with the iron scent of blood long spilled and secrets never unearthed. The shadows here do not simply cling, they pulse with a malevolent life, thickening the darkness into something suffocating, sentient, watching. You can almost hear the slow, wet breathing of the stones themselves, alive with whispered curses. The Black Psalm of Vorther speaks of this crypt as the final resting place of the king's most loyal, those who bound their souls to the ribcage crown and vanished into the abyss. Much like your situation now, isn't it? You two are trapped beneath the weight of bones and blood, a prisoner of ancient damnation. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the crypt walls seem to sweat dark ichor, the source hidden in shadow's hungry folds. An eldritch mystery deeper than any grave. A sentient shadow curls in the corners, its voice a velvet menace threading into your mind, whispering forbidden truths and the price of knowing. The shadow's bargain is clear: embrace the darkness, or be consumed by it. Your hand touches a cold rib bone, sharp and thrumming with cursed life. The iron scent envelops you, suffocating yet intoxicating. A dry, humorless chuckle echoes the executioner's late arrival remains a cruel joke, union rules or not. You feel the crypt's cold grip around your soul. Slow and inevitable, the crypt waits. And so do your nightmares. You stand once more in the throne chamber, where the crown forged from bone and blood awaits its bearer, crown that hungers and binds beyond death. The air pulses with the iron scent, thick and unyielding, as shadows writhe like living things, crawling along every surface in eager anticipation. The portrait's eyes blink, the statue's tears flow unseen, and the walls themselves seem to breathe, holding their ancient, dreadful secret close. The Black Psalm of Vorther speaks of the crown's final curse, a legacy passed not by blood alone, but by the very marrow of despair, much like your situation now, isn't it? The crown's hunger is your own, eternal and unrelenting. No living scholar dares explain why the weeping statues bleed only when unobserved, but here, the entire chamber weeps in silence, its grief a dark tide you can neither turn from nor resist. An eldritch mystery that marks the end and the beginning, the endless cycle of damnation. A sentient shadow coils tightly around your mind, its voice a velvet menace promising power, madness, or oblivion. Choose carefully, for the crown's price is the soul's final shattering. Your fingers close around the ribcage, crown's cold. Hungry bone, the iron scent flooding your senses like a flood of ancient blood. A dry, resigned chuckle escapes your lips. The executioner's union always wins in the end. You wear the crown now, and the crown wears you. The candle gutters. The dark between the pages stirs. Go on, then, close your eyes. They'll watch for you.